If not now, when? That really would be more properly a question devoted to you, though. And I really want to pursue that with you.
Pursue it, right?
Yeah. You know, I've actually been a part of this process and watched it for years and years at the way this has all come about, and with the different high school plans that you have mentioned over the years. And there has been a lot of community meetings. There's been a lot of outreach meetings over the years. So there's been an exchange of a ton of information. To say that we need to get more info from the community or something like that, you know, at this point, every issue has been debated and every issue has been argued. If not now, when are we going to do this?
We're prepared to support a coherent, internally consistent plan where the financing makes sense. This does not meet that standard. The fact that it would be desirable to resolve this issue does not mean that we ought to be passing a plan that doesn't work. And I would respond to Scott's earlier point that if David Littman and other leading economists and bond experts are correct, and we have an explosion of municipal bond rates, then 1.43 mils will be insufficient to pay what is required in order to satisfy the obligations of the $73 million bond issue. In that event, the school district will have no choice but to levy whatever number of mills are required to meet that requirement. David Littman and others think that we'll have to levy a great deal more. In addition to being a leading economist, he's a former member of the Bloomfield board. So I think it's unfortunate that school officials have not made that clear. We're in a disastrous economic situation, and the school district has not mentioned and has not told us that we are very liable to be levied many more than 1.43 mils.
All right, let's go, Scott. We can have a rebuttal.
Well, David Littman is a very respected economist, and I read his stuff and have nothing but the highest respect for him. I don't think he can read the future. I don't know where interest rates are going. They're pretty low now. I would expect that they're going to go up at some point, but that tells me that we have to make the decision now, because if we put it off, then we're simply taking the uncertainties of the future further into the future. We have to work now.
Well, don't you think that it...
All right, hold on. We're going to get you.
I'm sorry.
You're doing a great job. We'll get a couple questions in, and then we'll let it go. Glenn, I want you to ask Scott a question real quick.
Scott, your opposition has accused you of being deceptive in terms of you're saying this is not a tax increase, but in fact, the bond issue, the 0.67 would expire in, I believe, 2015, and the sinking fund would expire in 2014. So the district residents could get a tax cut at that point. Is it disingenuous to say there's no tax increase?
No, you can spin the rhetoric however you want. We've actually came into this campaign looking at a position that said this was not a new tax. The slogan was no new taxes, and we strongly disagree with this. It's a new tax. It's a renewal of a tax that exists now, but it's taxing at the existing rate. So I don't think we're being disingenuous. The language is clear. We want to extend the millages at the current rate, and the net combination of the millages at 2.17 mils is the same rates that people are paying for capital improvement at the schools now on their property taxes, and it's not an increase. That is not a tax increase. You can call it a new tax. You can call it an extension in the future. I agree with that, but we can pay for it simply by continuing to pay the payments we are making now, based on the same rates.
Is it a tax, Joe?
It is most assuredly a tax increase. According to Ingrid Day, the president of the Board of Education, this is not a tax increase, and we are not encumbering the property taxpayers in the Bloomfield Hills School District. In point of fact, we are. Over the next 35 years with a major tax increase, as the Detroit News has concluded. In addition, the school board cannot assure us that 1.43 mils will be sufficient to meet the obligations under the $73 million bond issue. Scott makes a very valid point. He can't predict the future. I didn't bring my crystal ball either, but the fact that leading economists suggest that they're going to have to levy many more than 1.43 mils for this obligation. Remember, when we vote yes, the board has the authority to do that. Not only does the board have the authority, but they will be required under their contractual arrangement for the bond to levy as many mills as it takes to satisfy that obligation. And no, I don't know for sure what's going to happen any more than you do, Scott, but it certainly should have been made clear, this pertinent fact to the voters of Bloomfield Hills before they vote yes. If you're asking me to buy something, I have a right to know how much does it cost and how am I supposed to pay for it. This information has been withheld.
All right, why don't we pick it up from right there? Why don't you rebut that? How much is this really going to cost? Is it disingenuous, perhaps, to say that it's 92 million, 98 million, we don't know what the bond's going to be, and isn't that a problem?
Well, it's a problem if people believe this stuff. We're voting on fixed rates for a millage that you can calculate into the future. It starts in 5 years. It goes 30 years beyond that. You can do the math. You can talk about where the economy is going to be 5 years from now, 25 years from now, 20 years from now, and I think that you can obfuscate all you want. The point is we have to make a decision, and we have to move, and we have to be willing to pay for what we get. There is not a no-tax option. If we get to the end of the spending authority under the current millages and simply let them drop, what do you think is going to happen?
Let me see.
Nobody's going to pay taxes? No, we're going to tax ourselves.
Let me see if I understand. Let me see if I understand the facts over here. We've got 2 schools in this district. We have Andover and Gloucester. There's a declining enrollment right now. Andover is falling apart, for lack of a better word. Are we going to need? It is falling apart. Are we going to need a new school in this district?
We have a number of choices. We can refurbish the existing schools.
How much is that? Isn't there a cost to that?
Well, then let's have a coherent plan that's supported by a large, a broad consensus in this community, which does not exist. It simply does not exist. I mean, you talk to anybody. Here's the problem. Let me set it out for you. 10 or 15% of voters usually vote for school board members. 60 and 70% of people vote in millage elections. So an awful lot of people that, if you stuck a gun in their back, couldn't tell you who their school board member is, know if there's a millage or not. The challenge of a school board, and I sat on a school board and ran millage campaigns, successful ones before, is to reach out beyond your comfort level. If you don't have to run a millage ever, all you have to do is accommodate the 15 or 20% of people that show up and vote in school board elections.
But aren't you going to have to renovate Andover High School?
Sure you are.
And isn't there a cost to that?
There surely is.
Is it as much as this?
Well, we don't know. We don't know where we ought to go. Should we do 1 high school? Should we do 2 high schools? Let's have a consensus. Let's have the voters decide, and then go forward with a coherent plan. This is not a coherent plan.
Joe, as a former school board member, are you saying that normally you have more specifics in the plan than this one?
Certainly. Not only that, we've had 4 plans, this is the 3rd plan in 6 years. I don't understand this plan. I don't understand what they're going to do. I don't understand the costs. A lot of reputable people have told me that these costs are outrageous. I don't know that we're getting value for our money. We need to know more.
Yeah.
I don't think the school board has got its act together. Here they are. They've told us in 2004 that we needed to refurbish our 2 high schools. In 2007, they said that we're going to have 2 high schools on 1 campus. Now they're going to combine.
Okay,
now they're going to
Look,
combine high schools.
Three respected construction management firms have looked at the site. They've looked at the macro dimensions of the school. In other words, how many students, how much square footage per student, what kind of facilities you want to give with regard to athletics, with regard to cultural education. And they've said, here's what it's going to cost. They came in remarkably close to each other. I'm not a creature of the school board, believe me. I just met the school board in August. My committee is independent of the school board. We don't agree with everything the school board says. But I've looked at the construction management firm's estimates of what the project cost is going to be, and I believe they've done their due diligence on this. That's actually why I signed on and said, sure, I'll help support this, because I was seeing numbers that convinced me that they actually had some idea of what this thing is going to cost.
Are there numbers that would show how much it would cost to renovate Andover High School?
Yeah.
And would those numbers be less than this millage?
Yes, they would indeed.
Isn't that a viable alternative?
It may be a viable alternative, but I think that you have to prepare yourself to fund what you eventually will need. I can guarantee you that if you stick to a renovation option, you'll be asking for more funding in the future to rebuild new.
I absolutely agree that at some point in the future we're going to have to ask for more funding. I want a plan that's coherent, internally consistent. I am by no means reflexively anti-millage. I supported the Bloomfield Township millage. I helped succeed in getting millages passed in the past.
Well, let me interrupt you for a second. When the board puts together a plan and presents it to the people, they're accused of making decisions already and it's a done deal. You're saying that they're not giving you a plan, and it's like either way they can't win. If they present something